Welcome back, listeners, to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I am Sana, your host. And listeners, when we talk about leadership, what do we picture? Um, Relentless, always working, and this version of leadership that runs on fumes. There is no sleep, no rest, no pause. And then we somehow convince ourselves that this is what commitment is, and commitment looks like. But then what if the most powerful thing a leader can do is to take care of their own body and mind first? That's what we are going to discuss in today's conversation. So, yes, listeners, let me introduce my guest to all of you. So, he's an Australian Navy veteran, co founder, and also director of Neptune Holdings Group in Darwin, and a leader who has built his entire professional philosophy around people, discipline, and sustainable performance. So, today we are going to explore something which my guest cares deeply about: the real connection between physical health and great leadership. So, listeners, let's welcome Matt Jacques. Matt, welcome to the show, and it's really an honor having you here.
Thank you very much. What an intro. That's hard to top when you get an intro like that. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm very keen to get into the discussion. It's a topic that's I'm very passionate about, especially after sort of reinventing myself in the last 18 months.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's explore, Matt. Let's explore. I mean, let's first start with your journey itself. I mean, you have been in the Navy and then building your business. Um, were there moments, when where you first felt how your physical state was directly affecting the kind of leader you were? How you were showing up? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, we'll sort of start on the journey. So, I co-founded Neptune in 2017 whilst I was still serving in the Navy. With my
Mm.
best mate Josh Bond, who's also a veteran. He's got a very people focused approach, also probably more so than I do. He's very much a people pleaser and a people person. Um, throughout that time, I was sort of bouncing across Australia. The business was functioning here in Darwin, and then 2021, I posted back with the Navy.
Mhm.
Um, and sort of entered into a promotion sort of workplace in the Navy, had some really good leadership, and in 2024 that leadership changed out. Well, 2023 it changed out. 2024 it sort of, they talk about it in professional sports. If you've got a high performing team, high functioning team, and that coach decides to retire,
Mhm.
the coach that they bring in can usually ride the coattails for about 12 months. Liverpool's a prime example. After Klopp left, they won the title, and then if you look at them this year, they're absolutely horrific. Good thing for me because I'm a Manchester United fan. Um,
Yeah.
if you so we had some really good leadership in sort of 21, 22, and then we had a new leader take over in 23, and by 24 the rot had actually set in. So at that point, my mental state wasn't really great. My physical state was horrific. I'd had an Achilles injury in November of 22. I'd had a knee surgery also, and I was sort of just riddled with injuries. So my physical state was pretty bad. My mindset was even worse. And
Mhm.
sort of come June, come March 24, I'd had my gallbladder removed because I had pancreatitis. So my gallbladder was removed from stress caused by the workplace. Uh, as I said, my mental health, and I'd put on about 40 kilos. So I was sitting at about 122 kilos, not in a great shape. And then essentially, and my mindset was, not where it should be to lead my team. So the link there between the sort of the physical and the mindset, I was in a really bad place. And again, this was sort of due to poor leadership above me. I like to blame the poor leadership above me, but again, it was also me not taking control of the situation. So Um, I made a choice in June of 2024 to, call that poor leadership out in a management meeting, and I sort of removed myself out of that situation.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and which, sort of brings me onto my book, which
Yeah.
is coming out on May 28, called Dictator: How to Un-F Your Leadership. Um, it's a play on words.
Yeah.
Um,
It
it's
is.
yeah, so it's I did call that person a dictator in a management meeting, and the whole, me talking about how to un-F your leadership. It's a system that I put in place, that can allow leaders to use the system to do the heavy lifting, and that way they don't have to rely on their personality to lead their people. But linking all this back, since February of 2025, I have lost 42 kilos, so just over 14 months.
Oh. Mhm.
I'm in probably the best physical shape of my adult life. Um, mindset's never been clearer, never been better. I'm leading so much with so much more clarity because I have a lot more clarity. I wake up in the morning, I train, I move my body. It's the first thing that I do. I set my daily tasks for me and what I need to achieve for the day, and then I roll into supporting the rest of the team. Um, I have a bit of a philosophy that, I used to be very much a people pleaser, and when you
Yeah.
put everyone else first and you neglect yourself, you get to the end of the day and you're absolutely burnt out and you've got no energy left for you. I
Yeah.
flipped that switch in January of 25, and I started putting myself first and taking care of me, which then meant that I could show up for my team way more, and in a better state for them, when I sort of looked after myself first.
Wow. Matt, first of all, really appreciate for opening it all up because uh and I think it's such an essential part of leadership. And more than that, the moment where you took that decision, I mean, yeah, uh, for me, it would have been the hardest decision to take, honestly, Matt. But then, um, accountability is such an once again, I think it's one of the most essential and one of the rarest part of leadership. It's, I mean, we expect accountability and responsibility from our team members, uh, but if as a leader we are not even acknowledging, we are not exercising that accountability, I mean, I don't know how our team members are going to do that. So I really kind of, unfortunately or fortunately, but I really, really appreciate that, because you are, kind of laying an example here. And when you lead by example, I think that's what good leadership looks like,
Yeah,
honestly.
100%. I think, you know, you sort of people. I'm a big believer, right, that you can teach leadership and you can teach management. Some people believe that, leadership is charismatic, it's
Yeah.
personality driven. It's, you've either got it or you don't. I actually think leadership can be taught. Um, I every night I set aside an hour every night and I will watch YouTube, or I'll read a book, or I'll listen to an audio, or I'll listen to a podcast, something around leadership or something that I'm, passionate about at that time. Recently it's obviously been a lot around AI to be able to move my business forward and trying to automate that world as much as I possibly can. Um, but I'm such a big believer on having that sort of hour reset of an evening where you just take that time to learn about something. And leadership, I think, is one of those things that you've got to fundamentally keep your thumb on the pulse because it's constantly shifting. The
Yeah.
the newer generation need different leadership to what, you know,
But
to what even, I did when I first came through the military, to, what the gens before me,
mm,
that style. So, I think especially with today's social media and attention spans, the next generation need a different style of leadership.
mm,
And you've got to be able to adjust the way, you talk and communicate with the different generations. So,
Mm,
for me, having I'll talk about it now. The operator system that I've built, and the
mhm,
foundation of that is three levels. It's vision, mission, values. It's standards, expectations, and it's accountability chart. So, I'm a big believer that if you run a team, so you don't have to be an entrepreneur or a CEO to implement the operator system. If you're just a manager, middle managers, it's prime. The book is prime for middle managers.
mhm,
Implement a vision, mission, and values into your team. I'm such a big believer that every organization, every department, and every team within the broader organization needs their own vision, mission, and values. I'll give an example of last year. I'll put my hand on my heart and say that at H&C, so the Hospitality and Catering Department at HMAS Coonawarra, we're the highest performing team in all of Navy. And I will go to my grave saying that because I fundamentally believed in it. We
mhm,
we created our own vision, mission, values. Our vision was to feed the Navy spirit by crafting the finest hospitality and catering experience for all. Um,
mhm,
the fact that I can still remember that up 4 months after I left, like, that's off the top of my head. Like, it was like we drilled it into ourselves that that's what we were there to do. We were there to feed the morale, right? So, um, but the biggest sort of turning point for us was when I named the values, and all I did was I looked at my best operators and said, what is it that they do? What is it they bring every single day? How
mhm,
do I name that? Now, one of the fundamental traits that all chefs in the military have had, and this goes across all three services, not just the Navy, um,
mhm,
we adapt and overcome. We run out of food, the oven breaks, you something goes wrong, you end up with 300 people coming through the line rather than 150. So we
mhm,
named our number one value is adapt and overcome, conquer the unthinkable, right? So my team straight away knew that when stuff went sideways, they just had to adapt and overcome, think outside the box, and they
mhm,
had the freedom and the clarity to be able to make the decisions on the fly because it was one of our values. So, our second most critical value was surpass every customer's expectations. So every time a customer comes through that line, I want them to be wowed. I want them to go, you know what? This is not like every other mess in Australia. This food
yeah,
is phenomenal. So having those two values linked together straight away goes, if we run out of food or something breaks, I've still got to be able to ensure that the customer has a world class experience.
mhm, yeah. And um, I think what I can see, Matt, very, very, very clearly is um, so much of the leadership you take from your time in the Navy, and and so much of values foundationally they are built all through those experiences. And but then at the same time also, one thing which that's what kind of going to stay with me, especially Matt, is how we, especially from the, I shouldn't say older generations, I mean, from the previous generations as well, we have to adapt our leadership style as per the new generation, because that's what commonly I see, that it kind of is convenient to shift the entire blame on the new generations. They're lazy, or um, they are always distracted, they have very short attention span, all the bad things. But how can we look at the good things in there as well? I mean, so I have had multiple conversations regarding this, but uh, the the way you share, I think this is going to definitely stay with me. We have to adapt our leadership style. It's not always, that, and I think that's a good leadership. You have to adapt yourself. Something that you once again shared, in your time at the Navy. So I really loved how you articulated it.
Yeah. I think also, like, a lot of leaders forget that, you know, self actualization too, like being able to just reflect on some of the decisions you've made throughout the day, even if you internally know that you may have got that decision wrong, just acknowledging that, you know what, maybe I didn't quite get that decision right today, but how can I reflect on that and how can I learn from that? And, you should be almost be able to do a debrief every single day of what you did throughout the day and then decide, yep, I got that right. Or, you know what? No, I probably didn't quite get this one 100%, but we're going to learn from it and we're going to grow. Otherwise, if you go throughout the day and then you don't reflect on the day and you're never gonna sort of learn, you're never gonna progress, and I think, 2024, the sort of the leader that I was under had no way. I don't think they ever self-reflected. I just don't think it was part of the way that they thought about their day or went about their day, and I'm a big believer in being able to do that, but you sort of touched on there about, accountability as a leader, and it's probably one thing that I really wanna leave your listeners with, if they take one thing away from this podcast, and that is that once you understand that everything is your fault as the leader, everything becomes so much easier because it is the greatest opportunity to then fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, if your team don't achieve the outcome, it's because we haven't set them up for success, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere along the line, something has broken. You know, Whether that be, we haven't briefed the most junior person or, the onboarding wasn't correct or the SOP isn't correct, right? Ultimately, it all stems back to us as the leader. And once we accept and own that, we can then give ourselves the biggest opportunity to fix and correct it.
Exactly. Exactly. 100% right.
Mm.
And man, another kind of question that comes to my mind. Um, I mean, we do, I mean, everything. We, let's say, as a routine, non-negotiables. We're doing everything right. Um, and there's this. I shouldn't say completely new identity, but there's a difference in the way we now look at ourselves. It's like there are timelines, and Matt, now when, let's say, um, life is unpredictable, or maybe there are challenges which you cannot even fathom about, and maybe, you are still doing mistakes. How how do you look at all of these differently right now, before you decided that you have to make the change? How do you look at them right now? How do you approach them right now?
So your question, I'm assuming, is around, life getting in the way of then trying to produce the results.
Right.
Is that where we're going? Yeah. Look, for me, people talk about motivation. I think motivation is a fickle word. I think it's just something that comes and goes. For me,
Mhm.
discipline is trumps everything. This morning I got up and I went to the gym. I had minus 1000% motivation. I had 1000% discipline. Um,
Cool.
the only reason I was there was because my alarm clock went off. I dragged myself out of bed. I put myself in the shower. I put my gym shoes on and I drove to the gym. Like, there was zero motivation for me to do that. I could have just hit snooze and went to bed and slept in, right? But ultimately, I know that if I do that, the rest of my day is not going to be there. It's the first win. And if you ever get a chance, and I don't know if you've ever watched it, General McRaven's speech about making your bed. He's a ex Navy SEAL. It's probably the best speech I think of all time, where he literally just talks about making your bed and having that first win. For me, going to the gym is having that first win of the day. So, and that's where 100% discipline comes in, because I know that it's going to set me up for success for the rest of that day. So, I know that if I don't go to the gym and if I don't move my body first thing, I'm not showing up the best version of myself for my team.
Wow. I I really love that, man. I mean, and more than that, you gave an example which I think everyone can relate to. It's this, that you get up in the morning, but you have to somehow drag yourself, and I think that's where, and this is something which another one of my guests had told in on a different podcast, that discipline, it overpowers motivation.
Always,
Discipline overpowers motivation.
always. Yeah. Yeah, it's even in business and even in the military, there is certain things I don't want to do in business, but I also know that if I don't do them, then I don't deliver what I said that I was going to do to the client, right? So I I I fundamentally you have to put those things into your calendar, otherwise, for me they just don't get done. So it's writing those reports, it's, ensuring that the rosters are done, it's ensuring that, the weekly meetings and the cadence is set. So, you know, um, and having everything for me, I'm a very disciplined and very structured person. Everything that I've got to achieve for the week is in my calendar. Um, if it's not in there, it gets missed. So, I talk about in the book, I talk about battle rhythm or operational cadence for those guys that, battle rhythm's obviously a very military term, but it's
Mhm.
it's it's setting things in your calendar that are just repeating. So if for those listeners out there that are entrepreneurs and do have businesses, so give an example. Mondays for us at Neptune Holding Group is just purely meeting day. So all my meetings are back to back to back to back to back. On a Monday, we go through all our business groups, we go through our finance, we have a team huddle at 08:05, and then just on the back of that, it's just meeting after meeting. But then what that
Yep.
does is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that allows me to go deep on the business. I can work on in deep work blocks. I'm not distracted by meetings. My energy is protected. My mindset is going into those days knowing that I can just go hard on the jobs that I'm trying to achieve. And then Friday, I have Friday as a day where I get out and I go and see my staff. I try and go and see some managers that are out on the ground. Um,
Mm.
so that way you sort of set your week. You're not dragging your energy fields across different things throughout the week. If you can sort of just set those cadence, and it
Mhm.
gives you an opportunity then to really focus where you need to put your energy. And as I said, starting your day by moving your body is always good. And I'm in the midst of training for a half marathon, so afternoons I'm running.
Wow.
But then I have that hour window of an evening as I wind down of a night time to do some learning and do some training for me.
Wow. Oh. And I have kind of it's not my pushback, not at all. But Matt, especially discipline. Now, some people would say that too much discipline kind of creates that rigidity, uh, to the point that it can sometimes become a bit of an obsession.
Mm.
Uh, it can maybe take you to the point of burnout as well. What's your thought on that?
Discipline creates freedom.
Oh,
So for me, as I said to you before, everything is in my calendar, right? So having that disciplined structure, I know exactly when my free time is. People go, "Oh, but what about your free time?" If I'm so structured and I'm so disciplined, I then don't have free time. Yeah, you do. It's actually in your calendar. And for me, a great line from Dan Martell is it's not what you say yes to, it's what you say no to. So
yep, yep.
when you know exactly what your goals are, you know exactly what your vision is, and you know exactly what you're working on, you know exactly what you can say no to. So,
Mm.
for me at the moment, I'm in a calorie deficit. I'm trying to eat really well. I'm trying to lean up. My coach is, into me. And another tip for young players, I believe that you should have a coach in every aspect of your life, whether you're in business, management,
Mm.
leadership, gym, whatever it is, get yourself a coach. And then, so for me, going out every night of the week isn't an option at the moment. So I know that I have to say no to that because my goal is to try and be in the best shape of my life. So I think that's where once you understand what your vision is for that period, and again, we're going to remember that it's only a small period. It might be 12 weeks that I'm trying to lose weight for, or cut down. So just 12 weeks where I've just got to say no to be able to go out with my mates. So for me, I'm a big believer that discipline actually creates freedom, especially when
Mhm.
you can put it into your calendar and lock down exactly what you're doing from minute one of the day to when you go to bed and build in those blocks. Um, To take it a step further, I actually have a yearly calendar where we sort of put in our planned holidays, we put in our planned trips, we put in our financial retreats, our strategic planning meetings for the business. So we also put in our leadership retreats and all that sort of stuff. So we are very structured and disciplined, I guess, across the entirety of the organization.
That's such a powerful answer, man. I love that. Love that. It's my drop. Great, great. So, Matt, before we wrap up, have to ask you if our listeners of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, they would like to, I'm very sure they'll definitely would want to connect with you, explore about your work, and maybe they would have their own thoughts or opinions to share. How they can reach out to you.
So I'm most active on Instagram at Jacquesy88. That's JACQUESY 88. And I also have a website called frontlinehorizon.com.au, where you'll be able to pre-order my book, Dictator: How to Un-F Your Leadership, which is available through there, or it is available through Amazon right now. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much, Matt, for your golden nuggets, and of course, uh, being so candid. And yes, listeners, as I always do, I'll have all the links mentioned in the show notes. So here's what I mean, for me, that's something that I would take away is uh, more on the physical part. And of course, Matt shared so many golden nuggets, but still, um, that we cannot pour from an empty vessel. We cannot pour from a body we have been ignoring. Physical health, it isn't a reward that you earn after leading well. It is one of the foundations you build before. So, with that, we conclude this episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. And Matt, once again, thank you so much. This was exactly the kind of grounded, I must say hard hitting, but honest conversation the show is built for. Thank you so much.
Thank you, mate. Much appreciated.
And yes, to all my listeners, if today's episode starts something new, let it. Sometimes the most important leadership decision you make is choosing to rest, to move, to breathe, and then to come back to yourself. And that is not weakness, that is wisdom. I'm Sana. This has been Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, part of the Healthy Mind by Vic network. Do follow the show and stay tuned for more such brilliant episodes. And do share this with someone who needs it today. I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much.